Hi, Rewind Recaps here. Today I'm going to explain a family adventure movie called The Astronaut Farmer. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The story begins with Charles Farmer, a former Air Force pilot and NASA trainee who gave up his dreams to run his family's Texas ranch after his father died by suicide. Now in his 40s, Charles lives with his wife Audrey, teenage son Shepard, and two young daughters. Though he's a rancher now, he hasn't given up on going to space. In fact, he's building a rocket in his barn, because why not bankrupt yourself and risk your family's lives at the same time? At the diner where Audrey works, locals mock her husband's space obsession. She brushes it off, though she probably wishes he'd just stuck with cows instead of fuel tanks. Meanwhile, Charles tries to buy 10,000 pounds of rocket fuel from a random online contact. Unsurprisingly, this raises a few eyebrows. He then asks his friend Arnold at the bank for another loan, but Arnold reminds him he's drowning in debt. Charles is disappointed but not deterred. Who needs financial stability when you have delusions of grandeur? That night, the family plays a game about going to the moon. Despite all odds, they genuinely support Charles's dreams. Audrey's father visits the next day and is surprisingly impressed by the rocket. But a letter soon arrives. Charles has a month to pay off his debt or lose the ranch. He expresses his frustration by chucking a brick through the bank window. Classic negotiation tactic. After a court-mandated psychiatric evaluation, Charles meets with the local shrink Beth. He takes nothing seriously and rambles about taking her to the moon. She isn't charmed. Charles then pulls his kids out of school, claiming he needs engineers. He convinces Audrey to let them be homeschooled while building the rocket. Because nothing says quality education like welding near explosive fuel. Word spreads fast, and the FBI shows up. They're very concerned. They tell Charles civilians can't launch rockets, especially ones that could double as missiles. But Charles has already submitted FAA paperwork and insists he's doing everything by the book. Despite government warnings, media attention turns Charles into a local legend. His old friend Doug, now an astronaut, visits and praises his hard work. But even Doug warns him, this rocket will never fly legally. He offers Charles a chance to join NASA properly. Charles declines. He wants to do it his way. Later, Charles is summoned to a meeting with officials from every acronym you can imagine: FBI, CIA, NASA, FAA, and the Department of Defense. They all agree this launch cannot happen. Doug even implies Charles is mentally unstable, like his late father. Charles passionately argues that space shouldn't be government property. If he wants to blow up his family on his ranch, it's his patriotic right. After the meeting, an FAA officer corners him and threatens to have him killed if he tries to launch. Kevin, Charles's lawyer, brushes it off. They can't just kill you, but let's be honest, they totally can. Audrey's credit card gets declined at the store. At the bank, she learns their assets are frozen and their house is on the chopping block. She confronts Charles, accusing him of gambling their future. He responds by throwing food like a toddler, and the fight scares their kids. Things worsen when Audrey's father dies peacefully in his sleep. At the funeral, Charles reflects on his own father's breakdown and vows not to give up. Instead of facing reality, he decides to mix kerosene and hydrazine to create his own fuel. Great plan. He writes Audrey a goodbye letter and preps for launch. A huge crowd gathers. The rocket takes off but crashes almost immediately, causing a fiery explosion. Charles survives, but he's hospitalized and physically wrecked. Audrey, miraculously, still loves him. Months later, Charles is depressed and gives up on his dream. Audrey, however, discovers her dad left behind a hidden inheritance and trust fund for the kids. She sells everything, repays the debt, and gives the rest to Charles. She insists the rocket is part of their family's identity. Dysfunctional, yes, but it's their dysfunction. Inspired, Charles gets back to work. The family secretly builds a new rocket, this time named the Dreamer. He trains, passes medical tests, and prepares for launch again. When the government tries to intercept his fuel shipment, they chase the wrong guy. Meanwhile, Charles is already blasting off. The rocket lifts into the sky, the townspeople watch in awe, while the FAA holds a press conference denying the launch even happened. Because gaslighting is cheaper than lawsuits. In space, Charles loses power and communications. Audrey and Shepard panic. Hours pass. Then Charles spots his floating wedding ring, finds the loose cables, and reconnects them. Classic space repair. He contacts his family, and they celebrate. After 9 orbits, he returns and lands safely a few miles from home. The town cheers. On national TV, he's hailed as a hero while FBI agents in the audience awkwardly applaud. Moral of the story: support your family, even if it means financial ruin and potentially blowing up half the town. Subscribe for more recaps, like, share, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.